Are you ready?
I didn't even look at it.
If you were going to make a wider one, you'd obviously start with a wider sinusoidal state. But you're going to use a small holder, and I'm going to take it close to the limits of the little curve. The limits meaning that you can't go any further. This describes the relationship between the axial curve, which is the diameter of the little part here. That describes the limits of the axis relative to the radial curve, which is described there. And you don't need to go that far. You can even go further. If I wanted to make the real tight ones there, these get even tighter yet. But this, if you can get to the limits of that curve, it's good. Now, what you'll also be learning from this is how to put a very tight curve even at one spot. So if I wanted to make something like the single loop earring, or where you have it coming around in a very tight curve and then open, what you do is that you start with the most open curve on the stake, right? And then you move toward the tighter curve of the center. So you end up with an anticlass that looks pretty much like the single loop before you close it. If you want to make a left and a right, you make one go one way, one go the other way. Also, the single loop is a very generic. I love that shape. You don't have to make it very tight. You can even very open ones are beautiful, and that's something you should all do. It's a great exercise to do, and you'll make yourself a really beautiful clavier. It won't have the same value without my signature on it, but you're more than welcome to do it.
But your secret pattern.
When you say the limits of the curve, do you mean in a way that there's no negative space, there's no empty space to strike
There's
on?
no empty space to strike on.
Okay.
There's no way to position it in
So
any
that
way.
you can get the right kind of hit.
Right.
Okay.
Unless you really stretch the hell out of it. So for instance, if I have a fairly tight curve this way, I could consider, no, but actually I'm even wrong there. No, you can't raise it anymore.
So
you
that's
can't
a
really
good
go any
indication.
further. So you're going to start, I'm going to start just the way I always do. Now, if you're not going to do a ruffle in this class, but when you watch me demonstrate, I'm going to have the piece curl to the right. Now what I mean by that is that it's going to go clockwise to the right. So this is curling clockwise, right? And when I'm going to the right. If you're left-handed, you want to make it go counterclockwise, right? If you think of it moving to the left. Right. So this is one, and that's the other. The reason for that is because opening the ruffle in this way, I mean, as we go along, I'm going to show you different ways to do ruffles. Okay, because a ruffle you can make at any point. Now, in a fairly open curve, you can almost manipulate it right with your hands. But as it gets tighter and tighter, it's more and more impossible to do so. Until when you get very, very tight, you have to do it in the way I'm going to demonstrate to get these wonderful, very tight, leafy forms. And that I'll show you how. But all of these forms can happen at any point.
So before you started, you're curving it downwards
I'm
and
curving
bending it
Yeah, I'm bending it.
in opposite directions.
And that's, see, I'm making a coil, because that's the coil that I'm going for. So I'm starting the coil. So just coil it up enough so that you can get it on here. Okay? You can start from one end or the other, it doesn't matter. I usually start at just one end. Hold it with your fingers. Hold it with here. You really want to hold it with your fingers. See, now this tip right now is at the limits of this curve. See? One side, so you start one edge, just like you did with the bracelet, the other edge, and push the bubble in. Pinch it, one edge, the other edge, push the bubble. Pinch it, and you always work from the edge toward the center. And concentrate just on the part that you're working on, and then you sort of move on. It also helps sometimes, I never used to describe that, but I realized that it's actually something I was doing automatically without thinking, is that instead of starting from the left and hammering to the right, I'll pinch, move it over, and actually start from the left, and from the right rather, and hammer towards the left. And then push the bubble in. Turn it. See how the bubble? Now at this part, everybody, oh, what do I do? It's in the way. Pull it out of the way. Keep going. This is somewhat arduous to begin with. It's like playing the guitar, your fingers begin to ache. But it's like everything else. As you do it, you know where to place the blows. You don't have to hold it that tight, just tight enough so that you get enough movement in the metal. And after my thumb, I was born this way, by the way. This is not from hammering. It's a trait. The only other, well, there are other people that have. Ron Pearson, do you know who Ron Pearson was? He was a black.
That little funny little.
Yeah, he had the same.